Hare Krishna. So we dedicate this session to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. And we are on a series of 9 session course of Bhagavad Gita. We have already covered 7 sessions: Secret of Happiness, Key to Success, Tips to Overcome Suffering, Art of Work, Importance of Guide, Balanced Lifestyle, Am I in Control? So these are the sessions we have done so far. And today we'll be discussing the Supreme Controller. Who is the Supreme Controller? How is he Supreme Controller? By whom is he accepted as the Supreme Controller? And next session is going to be our last session in this series, which is Ultimate Perfection. So we'll start with today's session with the agenda. So we'll try to understand what is the concept of boss. Is our real boss a person or an impersonal light? Are there many gods or one God? What do scriptures say about this? Hmm? And why is God all attractive, unlike other bosses, right? So when we say boss, someone who is trying to control over us, and that is the general concept of boss, right? Um, Although the contemporary image of boss is is not a very gentle experience, right? We see a different type of people with different personality type, and we see that in this contemporary world, um, some boss may be exploiting, they want to be authoritative, and they can be very rude, right? That is the general image what we see in the real life, in the corporate world, or even otherwise, right? Different people, they have different style, right? um, People may be full of pride, right? um, and Everyone surprisingly, you know wants to be, boss, because that is what is happening. There is a constant competition. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of leg pulling, lot of insecurity, inferiority or superiority complex. uh, and everyone wants to grow up and up and up, right? uh, and as you grow up the ladder, you're considered more successful, right? And basically that is the definition of of a successful man, right? How up and far they can grow in their life, right? And which is what we see, like everyone wants to be the boss. And why do people want to become boss? Because they will not have to end up listening to others, right? Or maybe they will end up listening to fewer people, right? uh, but to the contrary of this modern fighting or struggle to become boss or to grow, in Vedic times things were little different, or I would say they were much different from what we see today, right? uh, Even the so-called people who would serve under an authority, they will stick to that authority for long, right? We might have seen, like, even for that matter, our parents, they would have stuck to one job for their entire lifetime. They were very loyal. They were, and even the so-called superiors or the bosses, they were very gentle, right? They were understanding, and people would love to work under them, right? Unfortunately, the things are a little different from what they are, um, from what they were. So today they are little different, right? um, and everyone, of us, we deal with customers, and all the customers, they also tend to be our bosses, right? They will try to come up with their own demands on their own expectation, and they may be even more rude, more authoritative, than our so-called hierarchical bosses or superiors, right? And if we analyze, like, why do people want to become boss, we'll see, it's nice to have control over things and people, right? To become a power center and to be the enjoyer, right? And uh, to have a team of subordinate, who may report into you. It's just a great feeling, right? And to be, junior in the hierarchy is not to be something to be proud of, right? And that's the reason, like, as you grow, you enjoy more authority, more autonomy, right? uh, more perks, right? And that's the reason why everyone wants to become. But unfortunately, what we see is the exploitation, um, at uh, at at the level what we see in the contemporary world of different type of boss, right? And that is a bit different from Vedic times, when a leader, will like to nurture and empower their subordinates, right? And which is what is highlighted in Bhagavad Gita, in this shloka, which is spoken by Krishna, where he highlights that he is the supreme boss, he's the supreme leader, you know and then what he has to add up is will be very surprising to you. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheswaram suhridaya sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. This shlok is basically the last verse of chapter 5, which is 29th verse of chapter 5. In this, Krishna highlights that a person who is in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, which is Bhoktaram Yaga Tapsam. That means that he is the ultimate beneficiary of all the sacrifice and austerity. Then the second line, which is Sarvalok Maheshwaram, the supreme lord of all the planets and demigods. And then Suhrda Sarva Bhutanam, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. Now, as different from what we see in the contemporary world, here Krishna highlights that although he's the supreme authority, right? He's the supreme controller. He's Lord of all the planets and all other demigods. Nonetheless, he is benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, regardless of who they are and where they are, right? And a person who knows this, basically, this controllership of this ultimate authority of Krishna, and then that he is the well-wisher, he is the well-wisher of all of us, that person remains in peace. Gyatva mam shantim richati, right? We will not be in any more anxiety. And we will see what further Krishna says. Yat karoshi yad asnasi yad juhosi dadashi yat tapaswasi kaunteya tat kurutu shamat arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So, in the previous verse, Krishna highlighted that he's the beneficiary of all the sacrifices and austerity, and he's the supreme authority of all the planets, and he's our well wisher, right? And here, Krishna basically elaborates on that when he says that whatever we are doing in our lives, whatever we are eating, whatever we are giving in charity, and whatever austerities we are performing, all of those should be done and should be offered for Krishna, right? So here, this concept is basically known as Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? When we will go through the Bhagavad Gita in detail, after we finish this course, those of you who are interested, right, we will systematically read Bhagavad Gita. And it's not just systematically, but very scrutinizingly, verse after verse. And then will the mystery of Bhagavad Gita unfold in front of us. And then we will dive deep into the ocean of spiritual ecstasy, right? When we understand what Krishna is expecting from us, right? And if we see, like we discussed this even in one of the previous sessions, that all these things, whatever we see in this world, whether it be sun, moon, water, air, jewel, pearls, fruits, entire nature, and our very body, right? All this, who is the controller and who is the authority? Who is the manufacturer? Who is the owner of all these things, right? Everything belongs to God. Everything belongs to Krishna. And when we disregard the existence and predominance of Lord, then our act becomes sinful, right? The whole source, right, becomes sin. So that is why we worship God. That is why we worship Krishna. And that is the concept of offering food to Krishna before we eat that. Krishna specifically highlights that in the third chapter, 13th shloka, where he says, Yagna Shishta Sina Santo Muchante Sarvakilvisha Bhunjate Te to Agham Papam Ye Prachantis Atma Karanat. Here in this verse of third chapter, Krishna says that if we are eating anything without offering to Krishna, without offering to God, then we are just eating sin. And that is why you must have noticed in our Vedic tradition, in history of Bharatvarsh, in history of our own, families, we would have seen that our forefathers, right, they would always offer food before they honor it, before they eat it, right? And the whole concept is this, that for example, if we want to construct a house, right? We have hired a contractor, who has masons and laborer working for him. Now these laborers, they work day in, day out in constructing this house for yourself, right? And when the house is fully done, they say that because they have worked, the house belongs to them, right? Because they have spent so much energy constructing this house, regardless of who is paying, right? Regardless of who is providing the material, they claim the ownership. Now, how will you find that? That whole idea is very insane, right? Which is what Krishna is highlighting actually. When he says, Bhoktaram Yagatapsam Sarvalok Maheshwaram, when he is saying that he is owner of everything what we see. But unfortunately, we claim the ownership on our body and on anything which is related to this body. Krishna is providing the sunlight, Krishna is providing the water, and we never pay for these things, right? Krishna has provided this brain. Unfortunately, this brain is not something our parents have manufactured. Our parents, the way many of you are engineers, right? You may think that while many engineers and scientists come up with a cell phone, right? So at least there are so many brains working behind coming up with a new version of a cell phone, right? But can you please tell me how more complicated is this brain is in comparison to that cell phone? And where are the engineers and scientists who are working to manufacture this brain? Can we see that scientist? Can we see that engineer? Can we see the CEO of that company? Everything is single-handedly done by Krishna when he says that I am the owner of everything. So the way these laborers, are considered insane when they claim ownership. Similarly, if we claim ownership independent of Krishna, then we would also end up doing sinful activities, right? Now, Krishna says, Suhrda Sarva Bhutana. He's our well-wisher, right? His love for us is unconditional. But that does not mean that whatever we do is loved. Undoubtedly, it does mean that whatever we do, we are loved because He's our Father. He's our real Father. And He says that in Bhagavad Gita that I am the seed giving mother and father of all the living entities, right? So here we understand that who is this supreme controller, right? Now, there is a little misconception where people think that is God a person or an impersonal light? Because we often discuss that God is present everywhere. And people take it that if God is present everywhere, then God is impersonal, right? God cannot have a form, right? Now let's dig a little deeper into it and try to understand that. Okay. So if God is supreme, is he a person or an energy? Right? And if he is a person, is he same as we are, or his body is little different from our bodies? Right? Now, in the Genesis, which is considered, to be uh, main, the original Bible, it is said, God created mankind in his own image, right? And so something similar, very similar is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is said, Vadanti tat tattvas vidas tattvam yat jnanam advayam brahma brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdeti. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Now, who are these transcendentalists? What are transcendentalists? These are people who are not dealing with material world, but beyond, right? Now, this absolute truth, what is mentioned here, is recognized by these transcendentalists to be in three stages, basically. Which first is Brahman, and that Brahman means the existential aspect of God being present everywhere. Paramatma is basically the managerial aspect, what we can say, located and managing everything, which is like, we can say like functionally addressing God as Paramatma. Paramatma is present in each and every body and in each and every atom, right? And what is Bhagavan? Bhagavan is possessor of lot of attractive qualities, the lovable person. So these are the three categories basically in which the absolute truth is seen. Okay, now let me explain this in little more deep. Now, if you see basically this, a picture, a scenery from far off, you'll see that, it's like a green carpet everywhere, right? You would not be able to differentiate what is there, what is not there, right? You look at it as, a uniform or basically a uniform greenery, with little, valleys around, up and down, right? But if you go little closer to this, right, what would you see? You will see that there are different kind of trees there, right? You will be able to identify some variegatedness there, right? And if you go little more closer, you will be able to see more than trees. There may be some houses, there may be some animals around, right? So when we get closer, we get to see things in perspective, right? And so is the different stages in which absolute truth is realized. Now let's compare it with one more thing, which is like what is sunlight, right? When you wake up in the morning, right? If you see that light is coming through your window, you can see that sun has risen, right? Through the sunlight, you can correlate the sun, the rising of the sun, because basically the sunlight also represents the sun, right? And if you come out in the balcony, you can see the disk, right? And with a disk, just seeing the disk, you know that this is sun, right? And you know that sun is something more than just visual disk, right? There is a planet, and in the planet there is variegatedness, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, it is said by Krishna that he instructed the supreme science to Vivaswan, who is the sun god, right? And then Vivaswan instructed to Manu, and Manu to Ikshvaku. So this whole knowledge of spiritual science has been coming down in the disciplic succession. So what we see from this example is basically as you get closer to things, you try to understand there is variegatedness, things in perspective, right? And which is what is these three stages in which we realize the absolute truth. So the first stage in which we realize the absolute truth is the impersonal aspect of absolute truth, with which he is present everywhere, right? Which what we call as the impersonal light, the Brahman, right? The second aspect is the Paramatma aspect, with which he is present in every body and every atom, right? And the third aspect is his personality of God, which is Krishna, right? And now, when we are delineating these things, how the personality of Krishna is different from his impersonal aspect, let's see what is there in Bhagavad Gita which talks about this. Okay. Now, here in the 14th chapter, Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritayasya vayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya kantikasya cha. And I am the basis of impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So here, Krishna specifically highlights that he is the basis, he is the source. As sun is the source of sunlight, Krishna is the basis of impersonal aspect of absolute truth, which is Brahman, through which he is present everywhere. Like it is like his bodily effulgence, and which is further highlighted in a scripture known as Brahma Samhita, where Brahmaji talks about these aspects of Krishna and relationship between Krishna and the impersonal Jyoti. Yasya Prabho Prabhavato Jagat Andakoti Kotish Ashesha Vashudhati Vibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anant Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Here, Brahmaji says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of non differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads. Being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth. So here again, it is specifically highlighted that so-called impersonal aspect of absolute truth is the bodily effulgence of Krishna, right? And Arjuna specifically asks this question to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter, that whether if you are a person or a light or an impersonal light, right? Because as we have been discussing, Arjuna basically is representing all of us, right? All the doubts which we can have, Arjuna would present them to Krishna. And that is what he did here when he says, Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastam paryupasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So, see here, Arjuna is asking that Krishna, from from I want a clarity. What do you think is a perfect way of worshiping you? Those who are engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship your impersonal aspect, right? And let's see what Krishna has to say. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Aveshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Pariya Petas Te Me Yukta Tamamata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So here, Krishna put forward what he expects from us. Should we be worshipping the impersonal aspect? Should we be thinking that God is impersonal, or is he a personality? Right? He is a person. He can feel, he can see, he can listen, he can reciprocate with us. And that is what is all about devotion, as different from other ways of worshiping the absolute truth, right? And this is the highest way of reciprocating with the absolute truth, right? And furthermore, Krishna put forward that if people are worshipping the impersonal aspect, then what difficulties they face. क्लेशो अधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तशक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्त हि गतिर्दुःखम् दे देहावाद्भिरव्याप्यते. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. Klesho adhika. Klesho. Klesh means problems adhik. Many problems, very troublesome, right? To make progress in that discipline is always difficult. Avyakta hi gathir dukham. Avyakta means unmanifested, impersonal. It is dukham, very troublesome, very difficult for those who are embodied. Deha vadbhir avyapte, right? So it's very difficult. And when, please try to understand, in like, again, I'm saying that when we will go deeper into Gita, in the 6th chapter of Gita, Krishna talks about Dhyan Yoga, which is Astang Yoga, in which we meditate upon the Paramatma aspects, Yam, Niyam, Asan, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Right? These are 8 stages of Ashtanga Yoga. And Krishna says the importance of mind control for following that Dhyan Yoga process. And then Krishna, when he says, Arjuna put forwards the impracticality of that process. And he says that how it is so difficult, right? When Arjuna says, I can control the wind, but I cannot control my mind, Krishna. So what you are saying, it is very difficult. And Krishna accepts that it is difficult, but then he says that by suitable practice and by detachment, you can try and control your mind, right? And the suitable practice is what we talk about, the mantra can control the mind by suitable practice and detachment, right? Detachment from the 4 pillars of sinful life: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit relation, no gambling, right? So detachment from these things, and by suitable practice of chanting of Krishna's name, we can control the mind. But here Krishna is saying, yes, to worship the impersonal aspect is very difficult and very troublesome, right? So here I hope it gives you a lot of clarity, right? uh, that the worship of the personal aspect of Krishna through devotional service is the most perfect worship. Okay, now comes another question: are there many gods, or there is one God? Because we always talk about one God, which is Krishna, while since our childhood we have been listening that there are many gods, right? It seems what we call this marketplace of gods. Still, there is, an scope for new gods every now and then in India. And unfortunately, we see, how demonic people claim to be God, right? Every day in, day out, we see, a God is coming up, right? A rich man capable of giving charity, or doing something, some magical feats can be considered as God. By patients, a doctor is sometimes considered as God, right? A person having some of the siddhis like anima, mahima, garima, laghima, prapti, all these siddhis, people, and these siddhis, even for example, I tell you, Ravana had many more siddhis than so-called contemporary people who claim to be God by doing some magical feat. Ravana could do much more than the so-called God, what we see in today's world. I'm not talking about demigods, which are, highlighted and mentioned in the Vedas. I'm talking about some unauthoritative people who claim themselves to be God, right? Because they can do some magical feat, people start considering, oh, he is God, right? And that person also, because he gets the respect, the worship, the control, he also says, yes, I am the God. And so that this all goes on and on, right? But let's see what our scriptures says about this aspect. Okay, now this verse is from Vishnu Puran. ऐश्वर्यस्य समग्रस्य वीर्यस्य यस्य श्रिया ज्ञानवैराग्ययोश्चैव सानं भाग इतिन gana. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is thus defined by Parashar Muni as one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. It is not that person has a lot of strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. No, the word specifically highlighted here is full. That is owner, the complete strength. He has full strength, not the strongest, full strength, right? And this has been presented by Krishna in his different pastimes when he comes down in the form of Parashuram, Narsimha, Rama, Dhanvantri, Dattatreya, Matsya, Kapila, Kurma, and other incarnations, right? He shows that he has full, he's the strongest. He is, you know, all the strength belongs to him, all the fame, the wealth, the knowledge, right? All this belongs to him, which is what we saw in the 5th chapter, 29th verse of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yagatapsam, Sarvalok Maheshwaram. I'm the owner of everything, right? And he basically, when we see different aspects of Vishnu, right? Sometimes people ask us that how and what is the relationship between Krishna, Rama, and Vishnu, right? Now, Vishnu Bhagavan is known as Purushottam, right? Ram is known as Maryada Purushottam, and Krishna is known as Purna Purushottam, right? Now, they are one and the same, and the relation is as follows. For example, if you are in your office, right, in your formal clothes, can your wife or your children approach you in the office the way they could approach you at home? I hope you all will agree no, right? And you will be in formal dress, right? Now, if you come home, you are sitting in your living room, right? And there are some guests around. So you are at home, you may be in a casual dress, you may be in more of a relaxed atmosphere in comparison to what you were in office. And your kids can reciprocate, you know, I would say uh, more deeply at home. And when you come to your bedroom, right? When it is you, your kids, and your wife, your kids can climb up on your shoulder and can make you horse, right? And you will be in very casual dress. You are the same person in the office, in your living room, and in your bedroom, but you could reciprocate at these different places with the same people in different depth. And which is what is Vishnu, Ram, and Krishna. Vishnu is the office form of Krishna. Ram is the living room form of Krishna and Vishnu, while Krishna is the bedroom form of Ram and Vishnu. In the bedroom form, Krishna is known as Purna Purushottam. He reciprocates himself. He shows his full power in the Krishna form. He shows his absolute nature, like, full strength, full fame, full knowledge, everything in absolute terms when he descends in Krishna form. When he descended in the Rama form, he was Maryada. He had to, sort of restrict himself in some boundaries, right? And when he is Vishnu form, right, he is like, like an office form of Ram and Krishna. So basically that, although they are the same, they manifest themselves in different intensities, okay? And then what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, Sarvasya chaham hirdi saniveshto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedes sarve aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid evam chaham. Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedant, and I am the knower of the Vedas. This is a very, very important verse of Bhagavad Gita, 15.15, in which Krishna says that basically this brain, the functioning of this brain is controlled by him. He is cause of our remembering something, of our knowledge, and also what we forget. Like people talk that, we don't remember our past life. So that is basically a mercy of Krishna, an aspect of Krishna, that we have forgotten all those dreadful experiences we might have had in our previous lives, maybe 1 million life. How many times have we left the body? How many times have we died? And different things we come across when we die. But if we remember all those things, will we be able to live in this life the way we are living? No. That is why Krishna, by Krishna's mercy, he makes us forget all those things. And then he says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler and the knower of the Vedas, right? So here we are seeing that why, who is the supreme authority? Who is, what is Krishna's aspect? And then again he says, Mata parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sharvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. O conqueror of wealth. Conqueror of wealth is name of Arjun, whereby he is known as Dhananjaya, conqueror of wealth. He says, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Here Krishna again reiterates and highlights that fact, that there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So the way, we wear this neck beads, right? In a bead, or for example, in this chanting bead, right? All these pearls, right? They are strung on a thread, right? And which is what is holding them together. Although sometimes the thread is not visible, right? Sometimes when ladies wear the pearl necklace or something, right? And Krishna is saying that similarly, I am the basis of everything. Everything is resting upon me. And there is no truth superior to me. Now, sometimes people say and think that Krishna is behaving like a very proud person, right? When Krishna is saying that there is no truth superior to me. Sometimes people say that, oh, Krishna is boasting too much about himself in Gita. Now, can I ask you a question? When there was COVID, we circulated a message in our, apartment that we are doctors. If anyone wants support, they can come to us. Now, when we are highlighting that we are doctors, we can help you. It is not that we are boosting. It is that we want to help you. We want to support you, right? When people fall sick, like if there is by chance a road accident, and we if we are there, right? We tell that we can see, we can help the person. We say we are doctors, right? If there is an announcement in a flight or in a train, right, when people search for doctors, we go and we tell them that we are doctors, we can help them. Similarly, it is not pride what is reflected here. It is that yes, that I am the supreme truth. I am the topmost authority. And if you know this, you will be in peace, right? And again, Krishna highlights that same aspect. Aham sarvasya prabho mata sharvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhavava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Right? Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. That they engage in devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. And that is all about when we talk that love, different processes like karma kanda, karma yoga, gyan yoga, dhyan yoga, they have all the components, like they abide by the scriptures, knowledge, renunciation, meditation. But the devotional aspect, the bhakti yoga aspect, has everything in it. Karma is there, jnana is there, meditation is there, but the primary thing, the most important thing is the component of love, the component of devotion, which Krishna says that with that component, if you know that I am the source of all the spiritual and material world. Aham sarvasya prabho mata sharvam pravartate. Everything emanates from me, right? There is no truth superior to him. And then we see this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. In this verse of first canto of third chapter, this is the 28th verse. And from first verse to the 27th verse, Sukadev Goswami explains all the different Vishnu incarnations, right? And then in the 28th verse, what does he say? We will listen. Ete cham shakalapam sa Krishna tu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam mridanti yuge yuge. Sometimes people think that it is because of their they because they like they worship Krishna, it's because of their sentiments, or it is because out of their their love for Krishna. No, no. See, we love Krishna, we have sentiments, but that sentiment and love is based on scriptural evidence, right? We follow Vedas religiously and very scientifically, and here we see what is mentioned in Bhagavatam. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portion of the plenary portion of the Lord. But Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam. All of them appear on planets whenever there is disturbance. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyudanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamayam परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापना अर्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. Right? So what happens? All of them appear, means the incarnations, they appear on the planet whenever there is a disturbance created by atheist. The Lord incarnates to protect the theist. Right? So basically all the scriptures are aligned with each other, where they say that Krishna is the source of everything, right? Again, let's come back to Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Name viddu shuragana prabhavam na maharshaya aham adiri devanam maharshinam sa sarvasha. Here Krishna helps us understand a different aspect, where he says, neither the host of demigods, devtas, nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of demigods and sages. So, for example, we can know that my father is my father, but can we know everything about our father? Similarly, what he says, because I am their source, they can never know me in full, right? Because I am Name Vidu Shuragana Prabhavam Na Maharshaya Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Chasharvasa. Right? I am the source of all these demigods and the sages. Right? Now, here we saw that it is Krishna who is speaking about his being the absolute truth. He is being the supermost. He is being the superior. He is being the controller. He is being source of everything. Now, let's see what do the great devtas have to say about Krishna's superiority. When we say about devtas, we consider Brahma and Shiva to be the topmost, right? So let's see what they have to say. Here, Brahmaji is saying, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinde Sarva Karana Karanam. Here, Brahmaji says, Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. Now, here is the difference between our body and his body. Although he is a person, his body is not same as our body, which is made up of panch bhutas: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. No, no, no. His body is not that. Basically, what we are is soul, and soul is spiritual, right? While Krishna's body and Krishna himself is not made of panch bhutas. His body is fully spiritual. Okay. And that is why you might have seen, you might have heard, or maybe seen in, when you have seen Mahabharata, Krishna shows his universal form to Arjuna and to Duryodhana. He expands himself, like he shows that everything is there in his body, which is why his body is not like our body. Also, Krishna shows to Yashoda Maya the entire universe in his mouth, right? So, and then you will see in Krishna Leela, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna expands himself into the cowherd boys and the calves, right? So there are many places where Krishna basically highlights that his body is not made up of flesh and bones, and which is what Brahmaji is reiterating here. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. Okay, and again in the Srimad Bhagavatam, again Brahmaji prays. Shri Brahma Vacha Naumidyate Brahma Vapushe Tadid Ambaraya Gunjavatam Saparipecha Lashanmukhaya Vanyashraje Kevala Vitra Vishana Venu Lakshma Shriya Mridupade Pashupangajaya. Here, Brahmaji is talking about his bodily features and what he is. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the supreme personality of Godhead. And therefore, I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. So, Brahmaji is paying his obeisances on to Krishna. And in this photograph, if you see, uh, you know, we are sharing this, that Krishna, what I was talking about, Krishna expands him to his cowherd boys, as Vishnu forms, right? From him comes all these Vishnu forms. This is mentioned in Bhagavatam, right? So here, uh, O son of the king of the cowherds, like son of the Nanda Maharaj, who was king of cowherd in Braj, your transcendental body, again, his body is transcendental. Body is not made up of flesh and bones. Your transcendental body is dark blue, like a new cloud. So if you see in our temples, sometimes people say, oh, this is an imaginary form. This is a worship of a stone or a metal. No, I'm sorry. This form is an authoritative form. What we are worshipping is mentioned in the Vedas. What he wears, what does he do? Everything is there. So here you see his body is dark blue like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like the lightning, and beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head, wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute. You stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. Every minute detail is there in our scriptures. Nothing here is imaginary, right? So what we worship, how we, draw, paint, or come up with a deity form in temples is all very authoritative. And we saw here how Brahmaji is glorifying Krishna's superiority. Okay. And then let's see what Shivji has to say, right? Now, in this verse again from Srimad Bhagavatam, it is known as part of Rudra Gita from 4th canto, 24th chapter. Namasta Ashisha Manave Karnatmane Namo Dharmaya Brahate Krishnaya Kuntamedase Purushaya Purnaya Sankhya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Okay, so here what is Shivji saying? My dear Lord, you are the topmost of all bestowers of all benediction, the oldest and supreme enjoyer among all enjoyers. You are the master of all the world's metaphysical philosophy. For you are the supreme cause of all causes, Lord Krishna. You are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind and you have a brain which is never checked by any condition. Therefore, I repeatedly offer my obeisances unto you. So here we again see how Shivji is acknowledging the superiority of Krishna, not only once, but here again from Srimad Bhagavatam. Satvam Vishudham Vasudev Shabditam Yadi Yate Tatra Puman Pavrata Satve Cha Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Yadoksha Me Namasha Vidyate. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudev, is revealed. It's Vasudev. Vasudev is the name of Krishna's father. So it is known as Vasudev, is revealed without any covering. Right. So again, here we see how Shivji says that I am always engaged in offering obeisances, and always, how I am always thinking of Krishna, form of Vasudev. And here, this verse is from again Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Shri Mahadev Ovacha Deva Deva Jagad Vyapin Jagad Ishya Jagan Maya Sarvesham Api Bhavanam To Tvam Atma Hetur Ishvara. Lord Mahadev said, O chief demigod among the demigods, O all pervading Lord, Master of the universe, by your energy you are transformed into the creation. You are the root efficient cause of everything. You are the root and efficient cause of everything. You are not material. Indeed, you are the super soul or supreme living force of everything. Therefore, you are Parameshwar, the supreme controller of all controllers. And then here is a verse from Padma Puran. Here Lord Shiva says this to Parvati. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. Of all types of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is best. And better than worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotees, the Vaishnavas, right? And why is it said here like this? That of all the worship of Lord Vishnu is the best, and better than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotee. Because if we are able to serve the devotees or the Guru or our Guru, then because Guru is very dear to Krishna, we achieve love of Krishna very fast, right? And that is why it is mentioned again in Bhagavad Gita that how you should approach your Guru with attitude of humility and seva. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya updeshanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshana. So this verse is from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is highlighting that how a person should approach his Guru, right? With a with a humble mindset, vinamra, humble mindset, and with the attitude of pranipatena, means service attitude. And that is what it is mentioned here. That more than worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotee, the Vaishnavas, right? Now, having understood this, that Krishna is the supreme, Krishna is the personality, against the impersonal aspect, and has been accepted, by all other demigods, like the chief demigods, like Brahma and Shiva, right? Now we see how Krishna is lovable, how Krishna is Suhridam, he's the well-wisher. How has he reciprocated that aspect? How has he practically shown? Okay, that is what we are going to see from his different pastimes. This is a pastime of Putana. You might have heard about or seen it in Mahabharata, that Putana was the first demon who came to kill Krishna, right? By smearing her breast with a poison. And she wanted that Krishna should suck her breast, and by sucking the breast, which is, uh, you know, which has a poison, Krishna will immediately die, right? And we all know that how Krishna not only sucked the milk out of the breast, but also the life air of Putna, and Putna fall flat, having died. And what does Krishna do of Putana? Do you know? Does anyone know here? What destiny did Putana achieved after being killed by Krishna? Where did she go? Okay, so this is what is highlighted here in this verse. Aho bakiyam stan kalakutam jigham shapayaya api asadvi lebe gatim dhatri uchitam tato anyam kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam tato anyam dhatri. Dhatri means that she was given a role of like mother. Dhatri is basically called if when a baby is born, someone who takes care of that baby as good as a mother, right? Like a nursing mother. Hmm? Because she wanted to feed Krishna the breast milk. Krishna eternally gave her that opportunity, not that Krishna sent her to hell or anywhere else. Krishna just took the positive aspects of Putana, that she want to feed me milk, and he took it as a motherly act. And that is why the destiny what Putna got is that she became a nursing mother for Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. And that is why when Sukdev Goswami heard this aspect of Krishna, he was like, who can be more merciful than Krishna? Who will give the position of a mother to someone who has come to kill him, right? Again, in the next example, what should we see? This is a reciprocation of Bhagavan, Vishnu, Narayan with the four Kumaras. Okay. Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra brenum sadhya shata khila malam pratilabda shilam nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yashya preksha lavartha ittare niya mamvahanti. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees. Now, please note it. What does he say here? I am the servitor of my devotees. I am servant of my devotees. And can anyone give me example from Mahabharata how Krishna uh, exemplified that he is a servant of his devotee? We have discussed this, I think so, in the second session, that how Krishna is Bhakt Vatsalya. When he became a chariot driver of Arjuna, right? Can we expect that our CEO or Prime Minister India will drive a car for you? Here, Krishna, the supreme truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, become a chariot driver for his devotee, which is what he's highlighting here. Because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin, and I have acquired such a disposition that goddesses of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her. No attachment for her means his strength of being supreme renunciate, right? While others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight favor. So in this verse, Krishna's aspect of his servitorship to his devotees is highlighted, right? In the previous verse, we saw his merciful nature. Here we saw his being a servitor. And in this verse, This is a pastime of Gajendra when he saved his devotee Gajendra. Tam tadvad artam upalabhya jagannivasa stotram nishmaya dvija shacha samstuvadibhi chando mayena garudena samho amanas chakra yuddho abhyagama ashuyatto Gajendra. After understanding the awkward condition of Gajendra, who had offered his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods, who were offering prayers to him. Carrying his disc and other weapons, he appeared there on the back of his carrier Garuda with great speed according to his desire. Thus he appeared before Gajendra. So here, when his devotee Gajendra was in an awkward condition, he didn't leave him alone. He came immediately when Gajendra requested. So here his nature of being always there for his devotees, right? And this verse is from again from Bhagavatam, a pastime of King Amrisha, right? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aham Bhakta Paradhino He Ashwattara Eva Dvija Sadhu Bir Grasta Hridayo Bhakte Bhakta Jana Priya Sadhu Bir Grasta Hridayo. I am living in the heart of my devotee. Let's see. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Previously, he said, I am servitor. Here he is saying, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. When Bhishma took that vow, that Krishna has taken the vow that he will not lift any weapon. And today, I will either make him lift the weapon or the Pandavas will die. And just to fulfill the vow of Bhishma, he broke his own vow and he lifted the weapon to kill Bhishma. That is what Krishna is. I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the course of their heart. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. See, this is the nectar of Bhagavatam. This is the nectar of Bhagavad Gita, which we talk about. When we go deep into it, then, superficially, if you go near the sea or ocean, what will you see? Waves. But if you go deep into the ocean, you will get pearls, gems, right? That is what is Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Superficially, sometimes when we touch these scriptures, they are too difficult to understand, right? Which is what we are trying to do is facilitate that understanding. This is just a superficial understanding, how we are showing you that these are practical, very related scriptures, right? But if we go really deep, you will relish every moment of your life, right? And then we again want to share that Krishna is not the exploiting, rude, authoritative boss, but someone who wants to nurture, grow, and empower you, right? So, with this, I would like to end the session with some practical tips of the day, right? Be a representative of Lord, right? See the good in the team members and fan them, like Putna. He just saw that Putna has come to serve her, right? Be a servant than a boss. Like he said to four Kumaras, I am servant of my servant, right? If we have that attitude of helping others, of serving others, of caring for others, then we'll be in, you know, we should imitate our boss, not imitate in a sense of imitation, but follow in his footsteps, right? We can never imitate Krishna, but we should follow in his footsteps, like his approach towards his subordinates. And then be with people in bad times, like when he came to Gajendra, when he needed help, he was always there. And happiness or distress, face it as a team, right? When Vishnu told to Durvasa Muni that I am always there in the heart of my devotees and I am always with them, right? So um, there is actually a lot and lot and lot to learn more about it, which is what I say that this 9 sessions are just superficial, right? Uh, and finally, how to worship this lovable Lord. What is the process, right? Which is what we always highlight to all of you, right? In every session. Krate yadhyayato Vishnam, Tretayam yajato makhe, Dwapare paricharyayam, Khalo tadhari kirtanat. Whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditation on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing fire sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet in temple, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And this verse is mentioned in Kali Santarana Upanishad specifically. So this, we discuss every time where Brahmaji is speaking this to Narada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti so dasakam nam Kali kalmasha nashinam ata parantaro upaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names, composed of 32 syllables, are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, it is seen that to cross the ocean of nescience, there is no alternative to the chanting of the holy names. So this is reiterated again and again that, you know, but for this mantra, there is no way that we can counteract the evil effect of the current Kali Yuga, right? And to cross over this whole material world, we have to hold this mantra, and we chant this by first chanting the Panchatattva mantra. Just before starting, your mala on the beads, first chant this mantra, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, and then, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, right? So I hope that, you have done your quiz. I'm preparing it for all of you so that you can revise, right? The previous sessions. And next session will be our last session, which will talk about the ultimate perfection. How, having known everything, you know how should we lead our life in practicality, right? And I will be starting Gita classes, like in depth study of Gita, maybe somewhere from mid of April, mid to end of April. So those of you are interested, I will reach out to you. You can drop me a message on my cell phone, right? And I will also personally reach out to you to check. We can schedule them as per your convenience, because it will be a small group, like, um, you know because it will involve a lot of discussion and all that. I'm already conducting, like, I've already conducted almost 24 sessions. We have completed 6 chapters in in one other group, right? So we will start a new session maybe somewhere from mid or end of April, right? So thanks all of you. Just want to check if you have any questions before we end the session. Okay. So silence says no. I will end this session. Hare Krishna. Please take care.